was completely mummified when I figured out that Vendread was probably the best supported set or best supported strategy inside of the Flames of Destruction set without using Nightmare cards. The cards that we got, Vampire Sucker and other Vendread cards alike, really boosted this deck and made it a very viable deck for competitive level events. Before, you would probably see that Vendreads were just a very low tier deck, one of the TCG exclusives that really didn't pan out like most TCG exclusives. But I'm telling you guys, if you are a Vendread player, then this deck just might be the vaccine for a really good build. I'm TheCaliEffect, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, then go ahead and destroy that subscribe button. But more importantly, if you're a Spawn fan or Resident Evil fan like mine truly, then go ahead and hit that notification bell because we're probably just zombified. Without further ado, I present to you a competitive Vendread deck profile for this and possibly next format. I don't see anything in this deck getting hit, so I think it's still going to be pretty viable. Okay, so I know I said that Vendreads were competitive, but let's look at how competitive they can be by checking out the stats. Now, Vendreads have a pretty high attack naturally because they're zombie monsters and they sacrifice for it in their defense because most of the monsters' defenses are 0. It's a very big combo based deck, and the combos that you could make are pretty freaking awesome, especially with the new cards, and that's what I think really puts this deck over the top. But even more importantly, just like how zombie monsters get shot and come back, this deck has recovery, and I'm telling you, I've had my board broken quite a few times in this deck and still was able to manage another possibly even bigger board because of how Vendreads allow me to set up. Now, I'm going to have some video gameplay in this deck profile, so I really hope you guys can enjoy that. But until then, I want to say that this deck could top a regional, but it's best suited for local level events. Now, when I mean best suited for local level events, I don't mean that this deck can't top a regional. I really feel that this deck possibly could. I feel like it could do pretty well at a YCS, but I wouldn't play it just yet because we're maybe 1 or 2 cards missing from making this deck really viable. I'm going to be explaining you why I'm playing certain cards inside of this deck and why I don't play certain cards that are pretty popular with other duelists inside of Vendread. Okay, so starting off with the monsters, 3 copies of Revendread Slayer, and this is the best Vendread ritual monster in the deck. Mainly because this monster is the only way that you can search your ritual spell cards without the use of Manju or Sonic Bird. And the reasoning is the Vendread spell card, Revendread Origin states Revendread Slayer in its card text, which makes it a pre-preparation of rights targets, but that's not the reason why, or that's not the only reason why it's the best monster. It's a level 6 monster, and that comes up a lot. But even more importantly, when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, no matter how you send it to the field to the graveyard, link summon, synchro summon, or just tributing it off while it was ritual summoned, you can send 1 Vendread monster from your deck to your graveyard and simultaneously add another Vendread ritual spell card from your deck to your hand. And that's what's so important about this card. He fuels so many great combos. Banishing zombie monsters to give himself a boost also comes up a bit because we do run Shiranui cards and they do gain effects from being banished themselves. Next is 2 copies of Vendread Battlelord, and I thought that this card was complete garbage until the Flames of Destruction set rolled around, only to realize how great he was. So his effect to banish a Vendread card or a zombie monster in your graveyard, is it a zombie monster? Oh no, it has to be a Vendread card. His ability to banish a zombie or a Vendread card in your graveyard to activate his effect of a 1-turn Shockmaster only on your turn comes up a lot. A lot of times your opponent has cards to react to your plays, or has cards that will activate on your turn, and this card practically says no. If your opponent is playing Goki and has a board full of Goki monsters, you can summon this monster and declare monster, and now they won't be able to search their Goki cards. There's coincidentally a couple of games where I've had to summon Battlelord to gain his effects, and he's really important, but that's not where his best effect comes from. His best effect comes from when he is sent to the graveyard after being ritual summoned. You can add 1 Vendread card from your deck to your hand to send a Vendread monster from your deck to your graveyard. And then lastly, 1 copy of Vendread Executioner. His attack actually does come up a lot. 3000 attack, it does matter. But even more importantly, he forces your opponent to focus on this card. Your opponent can't target any other card cards except for Vendread Executor, and that actually does come up a lot. Now, I don't like his other effect. It needs to be destroyed by an opponent's card effect or by your opponent's battle for him to gain his search effect, but nonetheless, at least he still has the search effect. These are the only ritual monsters we play in the deck. People are probably wondering why I don't play Vendread Chimera. A lot of players with Vendread is either they play too many Vendread cards or not enough Vendread cards, and Vendread Chimera would be under the category of too many and unnecessary Vendread cards. Every single Vendread ritual monster in this deck replaces itself once it's into the graveyard, for the exception of Vendread Chimera, which I thought it was very peculiar why it didn't, contain that effect. Also, Vendread Chimera already does with our spell card Revendread Origin does, which is protect our Vendread monsters, and the fact that it's very specific. Your opponent needs to target your cards with it. It's just not that great of a card. I hate to say it, but this card's just really not good at all. It's a shame that it was a secret rare and not at least Executor. I don't know, something else could have been a secret rare. It's just not a great card. I wish Battlelord was, I guess. But that's it for the Vendread ritual monsters at 6 copies. For the Vendread monsters themselves, 2 copies of Vendread Striges, 1 copy of Vendread Revenants, and then 1 copy of Vendread Hooundhorde. Hands down, Striges is the best Vendread monster that is not a ritual monster inside of this deck. And the reason why is because when it's sent to the graveyard, no matter how it's sent to the graveyard, you can reveal a Vendread card from your hand to special summon this card to your side of the field. He is the easiest recurable Vendread card. Now, the monster or the effect that your Vendread monster does gain isn't that great, but it's still pretty useful when one of your Vendread ritual monsters destroy an opponent's monster by battle. You can draw a card, and then discard 1 card. So it's pretty good. It's pretty decent. Now, Vendread Revenants is probably the worst Vendread, monster that we're gonna play inside of this deck. But his effect is just so good. Basically, it gives any of your Vendread ritual monsters the ability to banish a special summon monster during either player's turn, and that's why he's so powerful. He doesn't have a way to recurse himself to the side of the field, but he's still pretty good. He has pretty high stats as far as attack, so he's a pretty decent card, and we can tutor him fairly well. Horde Hound is also another great card for the deck. It gives you the ability to banish spells and trap cards, and it does have a little bit of recursal itself by discarding a Vendread card, so it's pretty good. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering, or some people are probably wondering, why no Vendread Amina, why no Vendread Core, why no other Vendread cards, and why only 1 or 2 in 1 of each Vendread? So basically, of course, the deck is focused around ritual summoning, but that doesn't always happen. You don't want to have hands where you just clog with Vendread monsters and can't do anything with each other. Also, Vendread Striges is the best is because it doesn't just work for ritual summoning, it works for bringing out the best link in the deck, which is Vampire Sucker, as well as Vendread Horde Hound. These cards just don't do anything for you by themselves. They're kind of weak. Anima would be really good if it didn't have the clause that you can only summon zombie monsters for the rest of that turn, but these cards aren't that bad. But again, I don't have a way to consistently always be able to ritual summon and provide my Vendread monsters some field presence, but that's really all you need for your ritual monsters, or for your Vendread monsters that aren't rituals. We do play a Shiranui build, so the Shiranui cards do come in hand a lot when we come to ritual summoning, because our ritual spell card allows us to banish the Shiranui cards to summon our ritual Vendread monsters and then gain their effects. So 3 copies of Shiuranui Solitare. This is really nutty. It allows you to get Uni Zombie from your deck to your side of the field. Also, when it is banished, you can special summon a Shiranui monster that is banished as well to your side of the field. It complements Shiranui Spiritmaster just so well. When Spiritmaster is normal summon, you can special summon a Shiranui monster from your hand or graveyard to your side of the field, but the monster is banished when it leaves the field, so it can trigger Solitaire's effect if you have another Shiranui monster already banished. As well as when it's banished, you can destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field. So this card is just really good for not only being tutoring monsters to your side of the field, but also getting rid of some of your opponent's threats. And then lastly is 1 copy of Shiranui Spectral Sword. Now, normally players would only play 3 Solitaire and 1 Spiritmaster. Forget the Spectral Sword, forget the 2nd copy of Spiritmaster. But what I've noticed about this deck is that when you play more Shiranui cards, especially good ones, Spectral Swords is pretty freaking good in this deck. you're allowed more recovery options, as Shiranui Solitare will have more targets to special summon, and Spectral Sword is so free inside this deck because you're going to be sending zombie monsters to the graveyard anyways, and also it's a tuner, so it fits your synchro summoning requirements fairly easy. Next, 2 copies of Uni Zombie. Uni Zombie is really good. It's not great at 3. You don't want to see 3 copies in this deck, especially since Shiranui Solitare can summon it to your side of the field. You actually really want to summon Uni Zombie with Solitaire as opposed to just summoning the Uni Zombie, because at the very least, Solitaire by itself is a 1-card Omega after you summon the Uni Zombie, and Uni Zombie by itself is just a dump. Now, it does restrict you to only be able to attack with zombie monsters, but that's no problem. Either you can use its effects later on in the turn, or you can attack with your zombie monsters, which can be pretty buff, and then go into your plays later. Next, we only run 2 copies of Mezuki, which probably will spark a complete outrage, but I've realized something about Mezuki in this specific build. I'm not running a 60-card build, so it's not really easy for me to get cards like Mezuki to the graveyard as fast as possible. Uni Zombie is actually more so used to dump certain other cards. Sometimes I'll dump a Vendread Striges, sometimes I'll dump even a Shiranui Spiritmaster for a couple of other combo plays. So Mezuki does get put on the back burner a lot, and I don't want to open Mezuki because then I'm reliant to getting it in my graveyard, which means ritual summoning it. And a lot of times I probably want to banish my Shiranui cards or get my Vendread monsters off the field to give my monsters or my Vendread monsters certain effects. Now, it's still a really good card. I just don't see it's just too cloggy at 3. If you open 2 and you open some other cards, then you really just got to prioritize Mezuki. And then another thing is that I've never really needed more than 2 Mezuki in the game, especially with Sideframe Lord Omega being so easy to summon inside of this deck. Bringing Mezuki back to the graveyard isn't that much of a problem. 1 copy of Farfa, and I know you guys are probably like, why Farfa? Farfa comes up a lot. You can actually use it to get over if your opponent gives you an Ibli to your side of the field. So you use this to get over your Ibli and then summon all your monsters and go back. But we actually play Beatrice as a really important component in this deck, and being able to send Farfa on our opponent's turn to disrupt their monster combos is just really good. Also, keep in mind, if our opponent were to summon a monster like Electromite, Farfang is probably the best thing you can do to it, because not only did you rid the monster on the field, kind of like Ghost Ogre, but you prevented them from using Supreme King to copy its effects and, do basically the entire thing all over again. 1 copy of Blow Up Bolt. This card actually comes up a lot for this deck, gives you more synchro opportunities, and that's it for the rest of the off support. We actually run 6 hand traps in this deck. 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. This is the best hand trap for the deck because you can actually use this card for a ritual summon, seeing that it's a zombie monster after it's already been used and sent to the graveyard. If you guys cannot afford Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Ghost Bell and Haunted Matching will soon be a good card. I really wanted to run it inside of this deck, but it didn't come up. But also, Psyframe Gear Gamma is an amazing card in this deck. You do search a lot, or you're left with a lot of searches with no monsters on your field, and as well as Effect Veilers or Drolin Locks if you guys have access to those. And then nextly is 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. It's just easily the best hand trap in the game, being able to disrupt your opponent's face-up cards. So that's it for the monsters at 28. For the spells, 3 copies of 3 copies of Revendread Origin. This is the best ritual spell card. And it does have a little bit of its drawbacks. It allows you to ritual summon Vendread monsters from your graveyard or hand to your side of the field by tributing monsters or banishing zombie monsters from your graveyard. So it does trigger off your Shiuranui card effects, and it also allows you to search your Revendread Slayer. Next, we follow up with 2 copies of Revendread Evolution. And this card is so nutty. I'm happy that it came off of Flames of Destruction. It's actually a reason why we run 2 Battlelord and, so many Revendread Slayers. And basically what Revendread Evolution does is that you can ritual summon a Vendread monster from your hand or graveyard by using monsters in your hand or field, or sending one Vendread monster from your deck to the graveyard. So it triggers Striges. It allows you to send, if you have Battlelord, you can send a Battlelord from your deck to the graveyard to summon it to your side of the field. And it helps so much with the combos in this deck. This card is just amazing. The monster does get destroyed during the next end phase, but more often than not, we're going to make some pretty good use out of that card before it does leave. So that's it for the ritual spells. For the Catalyst cards to get us into our ritual spells, 3 copies of Preparation of Rites and 3 copies of Preparation of Rites. Wouldn't play any other copy or any other number, because Preparation of Rites searches all of our important Vendread cards, being Slayer and Battlelord, and Pre-Preparation of Rites not only searches our field or our spell, but it searches Revendread Slayer as well. It's just really powerful cards for the deck. And Preparation of Rites actually allows you to recurse your ritual spell cards from your graveyard. 1 copy of Monster Reborn, that would bring it up to 40, but I just couldn't resist playing Foolish Burial. So much utility for this card since we play so many cards that need to be the graveyard. And then lastly, to make it 42, was 1 copy of Vendread Knights. This card is really awesome. If you guys in your local level see a lot of Spiral, a lot of ABC, a lot of field spell heavy decks, you could play Ancient Fairy into your extra deck, then destroy their field spell cards and gain Vendread Knights from your deck to your hand. It's also a really good card for tutoring out your Vendread cards, whatever you need from your deck to your hand as well. Now, people might want to ask, why don't I play Vendread Nightmare and why don't I play Vendread Charge? Well, Vendread Charge just, in theory, it seems like a pretty okay card. You get rid of a card like Mezuki to summon any of your Vendread monsters from your deck to your hand. Well, you can't summon any of your Vendread ritual monsters to your side of the field through Vendread Charge. Even if you did, they wouldn't be able to gain their effects because they weren't ritual summoned. And the monsters that you summon, the Vendread monsters that you could summon, are immediately a -1, because there's no Vendread monster that immediately gets you something in return from using Vendread Charge. So Vendread Charge isn't that much of a good card, in my opinion, inside of this deck. It's not a terrible card. I can see it where it sets up a lot of plays in the future, but it just isn't enough Vendread monsters, or there isn't a Vendread monster to completely replace the Vendread Charge that I use. And then Vendread Nightmare is just... Man, once per turn, you contribute 1 or more of your Vendread monsters in your hand or field. The target one face-up monster you control increases level by the number of monsters tributed into the end of the turn. That right there should just let you know that's even a bigger neg than Vendread Charge for trying to fit your monsters into levels. It's just not a great card. And then the trap cards that you guys could run, Vendread Reunion is really slow. It doesn't really, it's not a bad effect. Reveal 1 Vendread ritual monster in your hand. Special summon any number of your banished Vendread monsters whose different names and face down defense position, whose levels exactly equal the level of the revealed Vendread monster. Immediately, you guys should know that I don't play enough Vendread monsters to justify running this card. Vendread Revolution, discard 1 card, target 1 Vendread monster and 1 ritual spell card in your graveyard. Special summon that monster in defense position, and if you do, add that ritual spell card to your hand. The banish effect, the target 5 of your banished zombie monsters and shuffle them into your deck and draw 1 card, is pretty decent, but overall it's just a really late game card. It's a very slow trap. It doesn't really do anything for the deck. I shouldn't have to say anything about Vendread Reorigin. It's just not a great card at all for the strategy. And then Vendread Daybreak is probably one of the best cards, or the best spell and trap card that is not ran in this deck. And here's my reasoning behind it. First of all, my opponent has to control more cards than I do. This deck can set up a pretty big board, and for them to outnumber that board, it's already hard. But let's say I just summon a ritual monster and have this in my field. There has to be a time where I'm gonna have to activate this to try to attempt to break my opponent's board. And since my board is already so weak, Vendread Daybreak might not even be able to break my opponent's board, and they'll just be able to continue to break my board. This card is a little slow. It's not a terribly, it's not a terrible card, but it does prevent a lot of things from happening, and you have to already be in a very bad position for this card to have full advantage. And again, it's not a terrible card. I just decided not to run it because for those reasons. So that's it for the main board and why I don't play the Vendread cards that you guys are probably wondering why I wasn't playing. Let's get on to that extra deck. The extra deck consists of 2 copies of Cyframe Lord Omega, the most, probably one of the most frequent synchro monsters you're gonna visit, because not only does it allow you to reshuffle your Mezukis, your Shiranui cards, your Vendread cards back into your graveyard, it also can disrupt your opponent's hand, as well as put itself back into the deck. Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon is actually really easily made inside of this deck. It is extraordinarily easy to make this card, and it allows you to get free negation. It allows you to attack over your opponent's big boards. Black Roach Dragon is pretty optional in this deck. I think it's a really good card because I don't main board wipes, so a good field wipe would be really good for the deck. Coral Dragon, and Stardust Charge Warrior. These are some 6 monsters that you're going to go into pretty frequently if you draw into your combo. 1 copy of Shiranui Samurai Sega. This card is also good because it's one of the targets for Spectral Sword, but more importantly, this can trigger off a chain of events to get you a free Crystal Wing, or just a monster on your side of the field to pump out some damage, or even bring out your most important link card. Beatrice the Eternal Lady is mandatory in this deck. I just don't see a good build not playing Beatrice because of its utility to get cards to your graveyard instantly. 2 copies of Vampire Sucker. This card is phenomenal as well. It's the reason why the deck is so good. Before, you'd have to summon cards like what's that monster, Underclock Taker, with this combo, but actually the combo didn't even really exist without Vampire Sucker, but it's just a really good card. I think that people really underrate this card because its effect is a hard once per turn as a card or safe return, and you only get to special summon zombie monsters to your opponent's side of the field. For a second, I actually thought you special summon your opponent's monster to your side of the field as a zombie monster, and then you get to draw a card, but that's not how it works. I think the card would be a little busted if it was. And then the last mandatory extra deck card is Borolo Dragon, because it gets rid of so many threats. It's easily the best Link 4 monster in the game. So as you guys can see, I didn't give you a full extra deck because I'm going to talk to you guys about some cards that you guys could play to fill in the rest. Now, what I play currently is a Danton Pilgrim. Let me just make sure it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, it was 11. I kept talking. Is Dante Pilgrim. I play a Deco Talker. I play, where is that card? The Nightmare Phoenix. And I also play the Samurai Shogun Saga, but I'm probably going to drop the Shogun Saga because it was really just, you know, it was just there just to be there. It was just a nice thought to go into with the Spectral Sword again. So Underclock Taker is a choice. The Nightmare cards are a very big choice to the strategy, because not only do they allow you to discard cards, but they gain you effects. You would have to play Ibli to gain Nightmare Mermaid's full effect. This deck can make Ultimate Azoken and pump out Crystal Wing the alternative way, and also Notoria Beast. I strongly advise you guys to play whatever you want to, mix and match. You can even play Winter Cherry's targets, because Winter Cherry's is a zombie, and get away with it inside of this deck. So that's it for the extra deck. For the side deck, a lot of players main Ghost Ogres inside Ash Blossoms, which is very detrimental to this deck. So I do side Frame Gear Gamma. It's also a really good card to stop your opponent's monster effects. 2 copies of Chaos Hunter, and Chaos Hunter is really good against Trickstar. It's just good against Infernoate, not Layer Infernoate, but it's good against Infernoate. It's good against decks that like to banish. 3 copies of Twin Twister. Gonna get rid of those back row heavy decks. Get rid of their spells and trap cards. Also, I normally side in Red Reboot as well, because it's just such a great card to rid those pesky trap cards. And then lastly, 3 copies of Evenly Matched. It's a staple side. I really can't find too many decks that don't need Evenly Matched, because blowing out your opponent's board before you follow up with your own is pretty good. If you guys can't afford Evenly Matched, then Kaijus are pretty decent options. It's probably the next best option. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. Actually, let me show you guys the combo I've been ranting and raving about, and then I'll set you guys off. I really think this deck is awesome. Okay, so the combo is, it's a 3-card combo. You're gonna wind up with a board that's pretty insane. Vendreads actually do have quite a few other combos, but since we're so pressed for time, I'm only going to show you guys this one. Now, if you guys want to see this deck in action, go ahead and destroy that subscribe button. Let's get to as many likes as possible, and we can get a live duel from this deck. So the combo requires Preparation of Rites, Pre-Preparation of Rites, as well as Shiranui Solitare to your side of the field. And this 3-card combo is going to end you with bananas, I'm telling you guys. First thing you're going to do is normal summon the Shiranui Solitaire, and then use its effect, tributing itself to special summon Uni Zombie to your side of the field. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, this is what the combo or the deck is pretty much based on, because if you can pull off this combo, it gets really nutty from there. You're just going to be able to dominate the game with the rest of the cards you're going to get. So now you're going to use Shiranui Solitaire, or Uni Zombie's effect, to send not Mezuki, but you need to send Shiranui Spiritmaster from your deck to your graveyard. Now, if your opponent does have a face-up card for you to disrupt, then Shiranui Spiritmaster does get a little bit of value as well. Activate pre-preparation of rights to select and add from your deck to your hand Revendread Slayer as well as Revendread Origin. And now you are going to activate Revendread Origin. Actually, you want Uni Zombie to be right here. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter, but I want it to be right there. You're going to activate Revendread Origin, banishing the Spiritmaster and the Solitaire from your graveyard to special summon Revendread Slayer to your side of the field. Now, that's going to trigger Shiranui Solitare and Spiritmaster if applicable, special summoning Shiranui Spiritmaster to your side of the field. So right now, my field is Revendread Slayer, Spiritmaster, Uni Zombie. I have a Shiranui Solitaire that's banished and a preparation of rights in my hand. I'm going to use both the Revendread Slayer and the Shiranui Spiritmaster for a link summon. I know I just got that card to my side of the field, and now it's getting back to the graveyard. Now that link summon is going to be from Vampire Sucker, and a series of events are going to happen. First, we're going to activate Revendread Slayer's effect, and that's going to add our other Vendread card from our deck to our hand. And then it's going to send a Vendread monster from our deck to our graveyard. Now, it's really important that you send Striges with this. No other Vendread monster will work, mainly because Striges will then gain its effect, and now we have a Vendread card to reveal for Striges. So Striges will special summon itself to its side of the field, and we'll be able to trigger our Vampire Sucker as well, since a monster was special summoned from our graveyard to our side of the field, and we will draw an additional card. Now, there's still a little bit more to do with this, but you guys have a couple of options with this play. What you guys could do is use both the Uni Zombie and the Striges for a synchro summon. Actually, that's what you will do. And you can either summon Coral Dragon if your opponent has a board to break with Coral Dragon, but since hypothetically we're going to be going first, we're going to summon Stardust Charge Warrior and then proceed to draw another card off of Stardust Charge Warrior's effect. Next, we're going to do is activate Pre-Preparation of Rights, and Pre-Preparation of Rights will not only add our Revendread Origin from our graveyard to our hands, but it will also add our level 7 Vendread monster, which I'm pretty sure is this. Our Revendread Battlelord, our Vendread Battlelord from our deck, or from our decks to our hands. So now our current board is Stardust Charge Warrior, Vampire Sucker, Vendread Battlelord, Vendread Origin, and Vendread Evolution. We're gonna follow up again with Vendread Origin effects to banish Uni Zombie and another monster, or whatever monsters that you need to summon Vendread Slayer to our side of the field. Use both the Vendread Slayer and the Stardust Charge Warrior for an Exceed summon this time around to make Beatrice the Eternal Lady. Now, Beatrice effect is going to detach one material to send one card from our deck to our graveyard. This card is going to be Globe Bowl. And now we're going to finish it off with Vendread Evolution, sending the Vendread Battlelord from our deck to our graveyard. Well, both of them we drew a Battlelord, so that's crazy. Sending Vendread Battlelord from our deck to our graveyard to summon Battlelord. Now, we're still not done with this because we're going to activate the effects of Globe Bulb, sending one card from our deck to our graveyard to special summon Globe Bulb to our side of the field. Battlelord and Globe Bulb will now make Psy-Frame Lord Omega, triggering Battlelord's effect, and that's going to add a Vendread card from your deck to your hand. I like to add Vendread Knights, and I also like to send Vendread Hooundhorde, because we can still go in, depending on what the rest of our hand is, by activating Vendread Knights, discarding a card, adding a Vendread card, using Hooundhorde to summon. If we can ritual summon again, we have the utility to do so. But this board is really good because now not only do you have Disruption with Psy-Frame Lord Omega, but Beatrice the Eternal Lady can send Farfa from the deck to the graveyard for continued disruption. And provided that we left Spiritmaster in the graveyard, we have a way to banish Spiritmaster, for future reference. We have Mezuki's, we have so many targets in our graveyard for another play following up. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. I really hope you guys enjoyed seeing this combo. It's a really, really good combo, and it's really what I think what makes Vendread a very powerful deck. Again, if you guys want to see this deck in action, go ahead and give this video a like. Let's try to get to 150 likes. Let us know as content creators that you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy. I hope you guys are having a great day like I am.